Okay, we are going to discuss, and not at length because I think might be uncomfortable for people, but we're going to talk about borrowing money and borrowing money from a friend or a family member. It's a very intriguing idea because you think, how can I do this? How friendly will someone be toward me if I borrow money? It's kind of scary to go to a bank because you only need a couple hundred, so they probably would turn you down. You don't have any collateral, and you think, my aunt has some money, or what would my dad say? Or, I'm going to go to my older brother, or maybe you're going to ask one of your friends at work. I'm going to say it's a bad idea. If you say you're going to borrow money, that means you're going to pay it back. And it creates a very awkward situation with friends and family when you borrow money and a long period of time goes by when there's no payback on the money. So here's what really should happen. Do not borrow money from a family member or a friend or a coworker, ever. That would really be what I would suggest. But if you do, come to them with the solution, not the problem. Come to them and say, I need to borrow $4,000. I'm going to use a big amount because $4,000 would be pretty big. And this is what I'm going to use it for. And if you permit me to borrow the money, this is how I will pay it back. And then stick to that no matter what. Friendships, family, coworkers, the lives and the relationships have been ruined by family members and friends who borrow money. The idea that you come to someone and say, I'm going to borrow it, that even if it's a cup of sugar, that means you are going to return that cup of sugar back to that person that you borrowed it from. And normally, if you had to borrow money from an institution of any kind, or take it off a line of credit, put it on a credit card, you would be paying interest. So it's only fair if you decide, and I'm saying, if you decide to borrow money and ask a family member or a friend or a coworker, that you already introduce an interest rate that is slightly higher than the lowest interest rate. In other words, I don't think a friend or a family member would want to gouge you, but if the current interest rate is 3.5%, pay them 4%, because they're actually giving you money from their pocket to you and counting on you returning it. My rule of thumb is I don't lend money, I give money. And most of the time, I think it's a bad idea when I do that, but I don't expect it back. If someone says to me, may I borrow this amount of money? I'll say to them, when you're asking me that, that means you're requesting that I give you money that you are paying back to me in some short amount of time. You should never owe someone $1,500 for 10 years and never see it. And I'll have to tell you, there's some scary things about borrowing money from friends or family. Let me give you an instance. You borrow $4,000 from somebody so you can buy the updated computer because you don't have room on your credit card and you don't have the cash in the bank. So you go to a friend that you know has cash put aside and you say, I need to buy this computer for my work. And could I borrow the money from you? I promise I'll pay it back. I'll give you 4% interest and I'll give you $400 a month for the next 10 months. And your friend, he's a little uncomfortable, your friend's a little squirmy, but says, I believe in you, we're good friends, here's the money. And then 2 months later, you have not paid them any money back and you're on vacation or you go on a trip or you buy a car or you buy a bike or you're out spending money at clubs or doing something like that. And believe me, I've seen it happen. The only way, and I'm telling you, the only way it is safe to borrow money from a family member, a friend or a coworker is that you have the payback set out in paper, you sign a note, and you agree to this, and under no circumstances do you break that agreement. That means if something comes up for you to go to on a ski trip and you owe someone $800 left and the ski trip's up, you say to your friends, I'm sorry, I can't go on that ski trip. I owe my friend money who got me out of a jam. That's the way to be honorable. That's what we do when we have integrity and dignity. We honor our word. And there's something I want to say about honoring your word, and this is the perfect place to do it because mainly people tend to think that your family and friends will overlook the fact that you owe them money. They kind of expect that you're going to go, oh no, you don't have to pay me back. But the real truth of the matter is that it shows what kind of person you are and what your word means. And your word should mean everything. In this world, we can be poor, middle class, really rich, just out of school. We can be even a little kid, 9 years old, saying, I'll give these jacks back if you just let me play it. That dated me, I think. I'll give back this skateboard if I can just play with it overnight. Your word is everything. It equalizes all of us in this world because we all have our honor. And if you don't have honor, I wouldn't borrow money from you. If I wouldn't lend you money, borrow money. I wouldn't borrow, or neither a borrower nor a lender be. I would not give you money. I would say to you, I saw what you did with your coworker. I'm not comfortable giving you any money. Your word doesn't seem to mean what it should mean. So let's go over that. Number one, not a good idea ever to borrow money from friends, family, or coworkers. Number two, if you have to borrow money with an agreement in place, a payment plan in place, and a reasonable interest for the money that they are putting out on your behalf with no collateral. And number three, make sure your word means everything to you. You do not go out and party while you owe someone $4,000. You don't go on a ski trip or go to the Bahamas or have a big party where it cost you a lot of money and have your family and friends see that and know that they didn't give you the money back. Because what they're going to think is, how come they can do this, but I don't have my money back? So please, what I'm saying to you is, don't borrow money, but if you have to, follow the rules of commitment, agreement, and honor.